Remember 2008? The year that shook the world and brought the financial system to its knees? The year the music stopped, and the financial world was left in stunned silence. It was like a game of musical chairs, but with the global economy. When the music stopped, everyone realized there weren't enough chairs to go around. Yeah, good times. Turns out, some players were too big to fail. These were the giants of the financial world, the ones who had their hands in every pie. That's corporate speak for so deeply entrenched in the system that their failure would be catastrophic. Their collapse would send shockwaves through the entire economy. It's like finding out your annoying neighbor's bad karaoke is actually keeping the earth from spinning off its axis. You're stuck with it, whether you like it or not. The punchline? Taxpayers, aka you and me, foot the bill for their mistakes. We were the ones left holding the bag. We became the designated drivers for these corporate party animals after they crashed the global economy. Hilarious, right? They partied hard, made reckless decisions, and when everything went south, we were the ones who had to clean up the mess. The government stepped in with bailouts, using taxpayer money to prop up these failing institutions. It was a bitter pill to swallow, watching our hard-earned money being used to save those who had gambled it all away. Meanwhile, ordinary people were losing their homes, their jobs, and their savings. Small businesses were closing down, and families were struggling to make ends meet. The experts debated on TV, trying to make sense of it all, while we were left to pick up the pieces. It was a harsh lesson in the realities of the global economy. But amidst the chaos, there was hope. Communities came together, people helped each other, and slowly, we began to rebuild. The road to recovery was long and hard, but we persevered. And now as we look back, we can see how far we've come. We've learned, we've grown, and we're stronger for it. The punchline may have been on us, but we turned it into a story of resilience and hope. First up, Lehman Brothers. Imagine a firm built on a foundation of subprime mortgages, held together by duct tape and prayers. That's Lehman. They were gambling with other people's money, and surprise, surprise, they lost big time. Their collapse was like watching a slow-motion train wreck, except the train was full of money and the only casualties were our retirement accounts. The irony? The same executives who drove the company into the ground walked away with millions in bonuses. Must be nice. Next we have AIG, the insurance giant who apparently forgot what insurance means. This company, once a stalwart of the financial world, found itself at the center of one of the biggest financial debacles in history. They were busy selling credit default swaps, which are basically insurance policies for investments. These swaps were supposed to be a safety net, a way to hedge against potential losses. But in reality, they were a ticking time bomb. Sounds boring, right? Well, it gets exciting when those investments are bundles of subprime mortgages disguised as AA-rated securities. These were high-risk loans given to people with poor credit, but they were packaged and sold as if they were top-tier investments. When the housing bubble burst, AIG was on the hook for billions. The value of those subprime mortgages plummeted, and suddenly AIG had to pay out on all those credit default swaps. It was a financial catastrophe. Their solution? Get a bailout from the government, aka you and me. Taxpayers were forced to foot the bill to the tune of $182 billion. It was one of the largest bailouts in history, and it left a bitter taste in the mouths of many. They then used that money to, you guessed it, pay out bonuses to the same executives who got them into this mess. These were the very people whose reckless decisions had nearly brought down the entire financial system. Because nothing says we're sorry like a multi-million-dollar bonus. It was a slap in the face to the American public, who were struggling with the fallout of the financial crisis. The executives walked away with their pockets lined, while ordinary people lost their homes and savings. Last but not least, we have General Motors, a name that once stood for American ingenuity and automotive excellence. Remember when American car companies were known for their quality and innovation? Yeah, me neither. Those days seem like a distant memory, lost in the rearview mirror of history. GM was like that uncle who keeps borrowing money for his surefire business idea, always promising that this time it will work out. But unlike your uncle, GM had a much larger safety net. Except this time, the government, aka you and me, were the ones handing over the cash. Our hard-earned taxpayer dollars were funneled into a company that seemed to be perpetually on the brink of collapse. They were bailed out to the tune of billions, a staggering amount that could have been used for countless other public needs. But instead, it went to keep GM afloat, all while producing cars that ran on gas, hopes, and prayers. The irony? They continued to churn out vehicles that guzzled fuel, even as the world was shifting towards more sustainable options. Many of the people who lost their jobs and homes during the financial crisis couldn't even afford to buy a used car, let alone a new GM vehicle. It was a cruel twist of fate, let alone a new GM vehicle. The bailout was supposed to save jobs and stabilize the economy, but for many, it felt like a slap in the face. The very people who needed help the most were left stranded while the corporate giants got a lifeline. Today, the automotive landscape is changing. Electric cars and sustainable technologies are becoming the norm, but the question remains, have we learned from the past? Or are we doomed to repeat the same mistakes? As we move forward, it's crucial to support innovation that benefits everyone, not just the big corporations. Investing in green energy, public transportation, and sustainable practices can pave the way for a brighter future. It's about building a community where everyone can thrive, where the success of one doesn't come at the expense of many. Let's make sure that the next time we face a crisis, we're better prepared to support each other. Because at the end of the day, it's not just about bailing out companies, it's about creating a world where everyone has the opportunity to succeed. And that starts with making smarter choices today. Crony capitalism, the ultimate punchline. The common thread running through these bailouts? Crony capitalism, baby. That's where corporations and government become best buddies, using taxpayer money to bail out their friends. It's like watching a bunch of kids in a school play, except the play is about the global economy, and the kids are incompetent, greedy, and holding all the power. The joke, as always, is on us. We're the ones left holding the bag, cleaning up the mess, and wondering how it all went so wrong. Bankers and CEOs, golden parachutes, and taxpayer-funded cocktails. Meanwhile, the masterminds behind this financial circus, they landed safely, cushioned by golden parachutes and taxpayer-funded cocktails. We're talking about the CEOs and bankers who gambled away our future, only to walk away with millions in bonuses and a slap on the wrist. It's enough to make you want to move to a deserted island and live off the grid. Except, knowing our luck, they'd probably find a way to build a luxury resort there and charge us rent. While the corporate elite were sipping champagne on their yachts, the rest of us were struggling to stay afloat. Foreclosures skyrocketed, unemployment reached record highs, and ramen noodles became a staple food group. The disparity was staggering. It was like watching a game show where one contestant gets a head start, all the answers, and a guaranteed win, while the other contestant is forced to play with their hands tied behind their back. The bailouts created a dangerous precedent, the moral hazard. It's like knowing your rich parents will always bail you out of jail, no matter how many laws you break. Why bother being responsible when there are no consequences for your actions? This too-big-to-fail mentality encourages reckless behavior, knowing that the taxpayer will always be there to pick up the pieces. It's a vicious cycle of greed, bailouts, and more greed. So, what did we learn from this whole financial fiasco? Apparently not much. The big banks are bigger than ever, the bonuses are fatter, and the regulations are weaker. It's like watching a sequel that's even worse than the original. The punchline remains the same. Wall Street wins, you lose. Will we ever break free from this endless cycle of corporate greed and taxpayer-funded bailouts? Don't hold your breath. As long as money talks and politicians listen closely, the too-big-to-fail comedy will continue. The only difference is, next time, we'll be laughing from the unemployment line together.